Okay, now.
Hello, everyone. This is Ayesha Jabbar, and as part of the professional development team at Oxford University Press, I would like to welcome you all to the second webinar in the series of week-long live webinars that are being hosted by Oxford University Press Pakistan. I would like to draw your attention towards the fact that this is a live event and there will be a 10 seconds delay in transmission. All registered participants will receive e-certificates for participating in the webinar. Please take some time towards the end of the session to share your feedback on the session by clicking on the feedback link provided in the chat box, which I will do shortly. Today's session, as you all know, is on developing early numeracy, and the session will be conducted by Ms. Ayesha Arif Kitchlew. She currently works at Oxford University Press as an education consultant and has a vast and varied experience in teaching and conducting teacher training workshops. Mathematics is something that's very close to her heart, and hopefully you'll be able to see that through in her session as well. So over to you, Miss Aisha, and best of luck.
Thank you so much, Aisha, for this lovely introduction. And as you said, yes, mathematics is really, really very close to my heart. And I would like all of my participants to actually take away the same feeling of joy and happiness that I actually feel right now while conducting this session. So I welcome you all on my session on early numeracy. Uh, Today's objective would be to understand what early numeracy is. So numeracy is the ability to reason with numbers and apply mathematical concepts. There is a genuine joy in learning, and when children learn something new, their eyes sparkle and they become very happy and excited. And that is something which is the key for all the participants that are there in my sessions. Uh, I always feel that we have to develop a certain feeling of happiness and a relationship with these kids so that they feel comfortable and conducive in this conducive environment. They feel happy and they feel joyous and they learn new things and explore new things in all aspects mathematically. So, early numeracy refers to the foundation of mathematical reasoning acquired in early childhood. And for this, I feel that as a teacher, if we want to be a super teacher, if we want that our children should enjoy mathematics and should actually have firm base, we have to work in different aspects. One thing which I feel is very important is to provide them conducive environment. So normally when I conduct sessions with kids, I try to provide them very comfortable environment. The environment must be attractive for the children, and yet they should be comfortable and they should be seated properly, or they should have floor mats or cushions around them or toys and lots of educational supportive material around them so that they become positively energized with the beautiful surroundings that they can see all around them. So even if I conduct a session with online with my students, I try that the screens should be such that it should be visually appealing and aesthetically pleasing for them so that they have a great learning experience. Uh, I think it's very important that if we want our children to enjoy our sessions, we should enjoy the sessions our own selves also. So that is something which I feel is depicted in all the sessions. So our teachers must actually be excited about what they are going to teach and how they are going to teach to the children. Uh, if we have to have a digital session or online session, it can be inside on a floor mat, and it can also be outside, and we can have a series of open-ended questions which could trigger their critical thinking. At other times, we could plan an outdoor session near to the mother nature, and they can collect stuff from all around them. And it can be a journey of exciting discovery while having fun time together, because it's important for the students to enjoy their surroundings and to actually make a connection of what is around them. So I think it's very important that we should have sessions which would trigger their curiosity, and they should be able to ask interesting questions or answer interesting questions their own selves. Uh, for a classroom environment, I would highly suggest interesting stuffed toys and cushions, so that when children are, having circle time, or activities are being taught in a conducive environment, they are actually excited to learn more. So I think all the activities that you design should be well thought over, and the materials that you require for the sessions should actually be ready for your sessions. And the more you involve the children, they would be more interested in the mathematical activities going on in your sessions. I feel that it's very important that if we want children to learn new things, then they should actually be taught in an environment which is attractive for them. So, in case if they are not listening to us, or they are not interested in certain activity, then we can very quickly change the activity and do something which would be interesting for them, because toddlers are not meant to actually behave in a way that we want them to. So at certain times we have to actually change our activities according to their liking and develop something which would be interesting for them, and they would actually have a fulfilling experience. It's very important to actually teach maths at a younger age, because developing numeracy skills at an early stage is very important. Children start observing, organizing, and finding meaning to their environment. They focus on reasoning, connecting ideas, and thinking logically. Important tools are being taught through this, and children can use these to make sense of the world around them. They can relate to other curriculum areas such as science, social studies, arts, and music. So, these days, everything is interconnected. So, children, when learning mathematical concepts, they can use science curriculum, they can use arts curriculum, and it can be integrated comfortably within each other. And the basic mathematical knowledge is being taught through integrating various subjects. And the main focus should be that we should create such activities which are interesting, and we are able to actually develop their skills. Uh, okay, so according to the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, learning about maths is neither short term nor rote. So children need to manipulate objects and explore maths concepts in a material rich environment. So whatever the materials they have all around them, they should be able to observe and manipulate, and they should be able to make connections and see how these objects can be useful for them, and how they are interconnected, how they are related to each other. And this can be done with lots and lots of discussions with them. While conducting the sessions, we can ask the interesting questions, and we can actually show them different videos and different materials and different manipulatives, and try to help them make connections their own selves. It's important to understand that these days children are actually more interested in technology. So if you put an iPad on one side and a box of blocks, where do you think the children would be attracted to? They would definitely jump towards the iPad and they would want to play with it. That means that technology is something that is of their choice. So if we make activities which would involve the usage of technology, that would be something that the children would really enjoy. So children need time and freedom to construct, test, and reflect on their own ideas of mathematics. So technology, if used age appropriately, can be one component which can be very, very useful in early maths education. So we can have interesting games with the children. We can use whiteboards and we can have very interesting activities during the classrooms where children are enjoying the session and at the same time learning through the use of technology. Uh, then we cannot actually, ignore the importance of language. So as you can see, that mathematical language plays a very important role in developing early literacy of mathematics. So people should work with who should work with young children must use a lot of mathematical language, especially the language that goes beyond the basic concepts. So lots and lots of listening of mathematical terms should be inculcated. Then they should have spoken activities where the teachers are talking to the students in terms of mathematics. Children should be able to have storyboards and they should have reading in terms of maths, and for sure the writing activities can be actually planned so that children actually make connections and they can actually enjoy mathematical language. Now let's have this activity. What do you notice in this picture? So we have different words written and there are different shapes. There are 2D shapes and there are signs. So in your chat box, I would like you to just make a sentence, mathematical sentence, uh, by using one, two, three, or four words and digits from this um, poster that you can see. So what do you notice here? So these are all those words that should be used in your mathematics class: straight, curved, less than, longer, greater than, and you can have interesting sentences which you can actually make up from these, and these should be used in the classrooms. So what do we see in the chat box? Has anybody made any sentence? Yes. 2 plus 1 is 3. Excellent. All right. Right. 2 is greater than 1. Yes. All right. So we can have so many interesting sentences with these familiar words and syntax so that gradually they get familiar with all these numbers and signs and syntax, and they are able to make connections of the words and signs. All the activities that we design for our classrooms should be embedded in daily life events. Using maths in daily life is very, very important. So we can have an activity where we plan their diet. We can have a cooking session in the classrooms or even at home. We can have a grocery shopping event where children go with a certain list and they purchase grocery, bill payments, and budgets. So all these events should be family events where children are involved in the mathematical part and they should be told how you are purchasing things, how you are actually measuring while cooking, how you are actually making the bill payments, and what amount do you pay and what is left behind, and how do you actually form a budget. So that they can actually make connections. Okay, blocks and puzzles. Now, this is very, very interesting that if we use all these manipulatives, then gradually children are able to, uh, make a connection of shapes, colors, and numbers. So the playful approach is the most effective mathematical instruction that occurs when people work with children. And we need to stack their desk with uh, all these interesting, colorful puzzles and mathematical manipulatives. And gradually they will understand what is balance, what is the idea of gravity, how they can sort things, and how they can actually make connections, how they can organize things. We introduce mathematical language and concept during enjoyable activities and everyday experiences. And sometimes this is also known as mathematizing. So when you actually use the mathematical language and concept in an enjoyable activity, children are basically mathematizing. So we'll be discussing three main areas which are very important as far as the toddlers are concerned. The first area would be number and operations. Then we will be discussing geometry and spatial sense. And thirdly, we'll be discussing patterns and measurement. So all these areas are very important when we are talking about early numeracy skills. So number and operations. So number sense involves the ability to think and work with numbers and to understand their use and relationship. While operations is the formal mathematical term referring to add, subtract, multiply, divide, and using these numbers, how we can actually add to these numbers and get something as a result, or we can subtract, or we can multiply. So that part is called the operations. As you can see here, the number and operations, when we are teaching this concept of numbers and operations, children learn to demonstrate increasing awareness of numbers and counting as a means of solving problems. So basically, here we can see that there are two cats in the cone, and number 2 is written. So they are able to make connection between the number and the quantity. And then there are 3 birds, and the number 3 is written, and we can have matching activity where then 7 is matching with the 7. Now here we are also introducing the spellings of 7 as a sight word, and children are gradually making a connection of the number with the sight word. So we can have different interesting activities, and children now start to associate numbers, concepts, vocabularies, quantities, and start writing numerals in a meaningful way. As you can see here, there is another activity which is from our countdown series. And this is basically about mm, quantities, which is lesser and which is more, which is greater than and which is less than. So gradually children are able to understand that the number when the number increases, it's more of a quantity, and when it decreases, it's less of the quantity. Then there is another activity where children can actually make connections with the real life, the bluebirds and the yellow birds. And this is a counting activity where children are actually counting birds of different colors. And this can be connected to a real life activity. And you can take children in the garden, and actually they can count different birds or different flowers in the garden, and they can make real life connections. Gradually, children begin to use language to compare numbers, objects with terms such as more than, less than, greater than, fewer, or equal to. And they develop increased abilities to combine and separate and name how many concrete objects they can see. Uh, we can have other interesting mathematizing activities where children are making comparisons between longer and shorter objects. And here you can see long, longer, and longest, small, smaller, and smallest. So they are actually making comparisons, light, lighter, and lightest. And children can also now do activities of sorting where they can sort by size or sort by color or sort by animals. So then we can also have patterning activities where children are able to make interesting patterns. In this activity, you can see that there is a comparison between long, longer, and longest, and there is a rule towards the end, which actually makes children realize the measurement of each of the crocodile and the difference between the size of the smaller, medium, and larger crocodile. So not only that the children are able to make a connection between the length of the crocodile, but they are also able to actually connect it with centimeters and inches. So these comparisons can actually be very useful for the students, and later they can make a connection with real life situations, and they can actually measure objects around them and see which one is longer and which one is shorter. Then comes the idea of order. So while we are actually developing early numeracy, this idea of order is also very important. Uh, Now, in this activity, they just have to actually use 1, 2, and 3 and actually compare the size of the objects or the fish that they can see. And they have to just write the number, 1 being the smallest and 3 being the largest. So they can compare this order. And then it is very, very important to actually use real life numbers all around them. Like if you are planning to actually visit any relative, then talking to them about their house number, their street number, and also about the house number and street number of their own house. And when you take them out for shopping, maybe for buying their shoe, what number of size would fit them? Like here, we can see a shoe, pink color shoe of size 2. Then when you go out for purchasing, what is the price for a kg of cherries? So these are certain things which are actually taken from real life, and this is something which I feel is very important, that when children accompany you for shopping, it should be involved in shopping activities. All right. So then next comes the idea of mathematizing the part of a whole. And here you can see that there is one whole in red color. And when divided into two portions, you can see halves. Then dividing one whole into three portions is 1/3. Dividing one whole into four portions is 1/4. We also need to tell them about the idea of certain things inside a pot, in front of a house, on certain things, next to certain things, under something, over something. And then gradually we will be introducing children to the idea of estimation and approximation. Now, this is a very, very important portion of mathematics where they actually estimate and they give an idea of what they think would be their estimate about a certain thing. Like when they look at this garden, how many birds can they find of blue color? So maybe they would say 4 or 5, and it would be round about the same number that is actually present. So that is basically the idea of making correct estimations. Uh, all right. So I feel that it's very, very important to actually, play games with students in classrooms, because games really make learning interesting and it makes learning fun. So here we can see that there is a mat in which there is there are numbers, and then there are activities of counting, and then we have this alphabet game which also has scores written on them. So if you make small 3-letter words, then you get a score of a certain number, and the highest number would be the winner. Then we can also use playing cards, and they can actually make interesting activities with the help of buttons. And as you can see in this activity, they only have to make a connection of the number of objects and the number written on the card. Then in this activity, which is a very, very fun activity for children, they have to roll a dice, and whatever they get on the top face of the dice, they have to count those dots, and the total would be written here as 7, and then they would have 7 objects in this square. So gradually, when they are familiar with the numbers, we will be actually introducing them with the idea of putting the numbers together and adding them, or subtracting them, or multiplying them, or dividing them. So games like board games, hopscotch, dice games are all fun activities that you can have in your classrooms, and you can actually enjoy playing these games with the children. Now we will be focusing at the geometry and spatial sense that is important for the children. And the idea of classification is now introduced to the children, and they are able to actually segregate the colors and the colored balls according to different colors. They are classifying them. They are introduced to the idea of shapes and the difference between 2D and 3D shapes. Geometry is the area of mathematics that involves shapes. So it helps children describe and classify the world that we live in. So when they are introduced to these shapes, they make connections of these shapes with the objects around them. Some certain times we would be talking to them about the shape of their face, the shape of their house, or the shape of things around them. So spatial sense basically gives children an awareness of themselves in relation to people and object. So it's very important for the children to have this spatial sense. Um, then we can have very, very interesting activities of shapes where children do matching exercises, and they can actually um, do puzzles in which different shapes are uh, given to them, and they can be actually divided into paired activities, or a group of 3 or 4 children who would join together and solve this problem. And then this is another example of a puzzle which children can solve together, and through this they will also learn collaboration. So certain activities should be actually assigned to them in pairs or in groups, so that they are able to work together, and they are able to actually appreciate the ability of working together, and how they can actually solve the puzzles in different ways, because every child would have his own way of solving a puzzle. So gradually, children begin to recognize, describe, and compare different shapes. They gradually start remembering the names of different shapes and parts, and also their attributes. Like they would know that the triangle would always have three sides, square is something which will always have four equal sides, and rectangle would have two opposite sides which are equal. So basically, they would gradually be learning what the shape is like, and what are its attributes. All right, so now we would be talking about uh, patterns and measurement. Now, uh, the basic way in which children would start measuring things is their hand span. So when they use their hands, basically what a hand span is like is the distance between their thumb and their little finger when the hand is stretched wide across, and then the foot span. And gradually they will start measuring objects which are around them in terms of their hand span and their foot span. Like here, they have actually measured their book in hand span, and then they have actually measured this area of their classroom in terms of their foot span. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 foot spans is equivalent to the size of their classroom. So you can actually introduce different things, and they should be able to actually use their hand and their feet as something to measure different objects. So gradually they will be introduced to the concept of measuring with a ruler, uh, like objects like pencil, the concept of distance, and the concept of their home. How far is their home to the school? They will be able to measure that, and gradually we will be actually introducing them to the standard units of measurement. Then we'll also be talking to them about the distance of cities, from one city to another city, and then from one country to another country. So the idea of measurement is very subtly introduced, and gradually children start using different ways of measurement. Other than the hand and the foot span, they can also use different ways of measuring things, like using small blocks, or like using small strings. And these can actually be used effectively. And later on, we will be introducing them to the idea of a foot rule and an inchy tape, and they can actually make useful connections. Then the most important idea of the time will be actually introduced, because children are younger at this age, and they are actually ready to absorb anything and everything that we discuss with them. So the idea of day and night, and how they think about when their routines. As you can see in this picture, which is taken from Countdown book, what is Adil doing in the first picture? He wakes up, then he takes a bath, he dresses up, then he takes his breakfast, and after that, at in school, he takes his lunch with his friends, and then here we can see that. Or the time that he studies, and then the time that he leaves for his games, and after that, what does he take for dinner? And before the dinner, he reads a book. So all this scheduling of his day can be connected with what the child is doing his own self. And the concept of the clock, the analog clock and the digital clock is introduced at this time. The small hand and the large hand is introduced to the children. And children make connections of the analog clock and the digital clock. And we can do this with the help of interesting videos which are available on our Oxford Owl platform. Oxford Owl is basically a platform where you can have all those videos, useful videos for all our toddlers to introduce basic concepts that are essential for students. So I'll be telling you about Oxford Owl in a while and introduce you to this interesting platform where we have videos and online activities of all that we have talked up till now. So here you can see an activity of patterns. This is a very wonderful opportunity for children to mathematize because children actually make their own patterns and they make their own connections. So patterns can be very interesting. They can actually be introduced through using blocks, and activities can also encompass different, shapes or different objects, and they can actually be given to the student, and the student can arrange things in different colorful patterns. So it's interesting to see that gradually we introduce children to the idea of volume, height, weight, length, and temperature. And while doing this, we actually involve children in interesting scientific experiments where children are to actually measure different volume or different weights, or they are asked to measure in terms of length and in terms of temperature, or else we can involve them in a cooking activity in which we tell them to take care of, the temperature for baking, or do different, activities to measure flour, or to measure butter, or to measure any other cooking ingredient. So children can be involved in block building, in cooking, craft, science experiments, and other experiences that involves measurement, so that they are actually able to understand the concept of measurement in a deeper sense. So we can look for opportunities to help children make comparisons with all these materials and stuff, and we can develop our own activities also, so that they are comfortable with the idea of volume, height, weight, length, and temperature. Here you can see that children are actually measuring with a cup. They can also use this, little blocks to measure the length of various other objects. So initially, if they start measuring with objects of their choice, it's just fine. That's just okay. Gradually, we'll be introducing them to the standard units of measurement. And as you can see, they are just comparing which container would you use to measure certain amount of water. If the water is less, then this cup would be important. If we are to measure a large quantity, then this bucket would be important. So then gradually we'll be introducing them to the idea of 1 cup, half cup, 1/3 of a cup, quarter cup, and likewise, the timer can be used for cooking activity also. This is a weighing scale which they can actually weigh different objects on. Then uh, all these other um, temperature measuring units and other tools can be seen here, which can be a part of our mm, classrooms. Okay, so we can actually have very interesting activities with these little bugs here, and children can actually observe and mathematize and see which insects are more and which are less. So comparing the quantities and then actually understanding the concept of graphs is also taught to the children, and gradually children are able to actually make connections of like in this case children how many children would like mangoes, so how many children would like pomegranate, how many children would like bananas. So strawberry is the most I would say popular fruit amongst this class, and pomegranate is the least popular amongst all these children. So how many children would like bananas? So if every banana is represented by two children, so what would be the answer for five bananas? So this is also a very interesting mathematizing opportunity. All these things are taught through various strategies, and all these strategies are important for us. So we should never stop learning, and to learn, we always have different ways in which we can make our sessions interesting, our classrooms interesting. So the first strategy that I would say should be used in classroom is visualization. Children should be able to make connections of real life using the interactive whiteboard to display photos, audio clips, and videos. Then the second strategy would be of cooperative learning, where children are able to solve mathematical problems and puzzles in a paired activity or in a group work. Third strategy, which I think is very, very important, is inquiry-based instruction, where children are actually exposed to different questions which are thought-provoking, and they should be able to find answers of all these questions their own self. And those answers will actually take them to a journey of discovery, and they will be able to solve the problems their own selves. Then fourth strategy would be of differentiation, since not all the children have the same ability to be able to understand a concept. Certain children are, good in logic. The others are good in mathematical solutions through using music. Certain children would be quicker if they are exposed to different pictures or concrete pictorial approaches used for them. So all children are actually different, and their ability to actually understand the concept is also different. So we should actually provide a variety of ways in which children should be taught a basic concept, so that all children present in our class are able to understand, and they should be able to learn on their own pace. It's very important to have technology in classrooms. So these mobile devices, iPads and tablets can also be used effectively in our sessions, in our classrooms, so that children enjoy learning, and they actually play games on iPads and things like that, which are designed for them, so that they learn the way that they want to learn. It's important to understand that children should be taught the way that they enjoy the most. Then I would say that it's important also to focus on the behavior management side, because your classroom should be a combination of discipline and reward. It's very important that your seating arrangements should be such that children should have the opportunity of working together, and yet they should have teachers' attention at all times. And you can very easily, move all around the class, and you can actually pay attention to those who require your support as a facilitator. Uh, Lastly, I would say that professional development of teachers is very important. So you need to invest in yourself in terms of time and in terms of learning new things. Keep your skill upgraded, and uh, keep your self, always ready to learn new skills, because the world is changing very rapidly, and things are, becoming more and more tech based, and children these days enjoy using technology. So teachers must have full command over the new ways of teaching. So these days, because of the change in the way of teaching, and due to also COVID, the style of teaching has actually totally changed. So, flipped classroom approach is more popular these days, and for that, we have to have certain interesting digital materials that we can actually share with the children before they sit for our session. So, for that, I would actually be talking to you about Oxford eMate, which is a very interesting platform which will help you understand the concept of flipped classroom approach, and you will be able to use effective ways and games online for students to actually uh, okay, now I will ask Ms. Ayesha Jabbar to tell you about um, the link that probably will help you record your feedback for this session. Aisha?
Yes, I'm pasting the link in the chat box.
Okay, the presentation is still not finished, but we just wanted to share this link at this time so that you are able to record your feedback for this session.
So I've shared the link. Participants will have to click on the link to go onto this feedback form and share their feedback on today's session towards the end of the session. Thanks.
Right. So it is important for us to understand that whatever activities we conduct in our sessions while in class or online, they should be based on 21st century skills. So lots and lots of activities should be focused on developing the critical thinking amongst early learners, the idea of children communicating to one another, collaboration, and creativity. So all these skills need to be taught to children. And as far as the discipline is concerned, we must treat students with respect, because they are little, and they feel happy if they are given the respect. We need to get to know the students, because building a relationship with our students is very, very important. Once they are friendly with us, once they feel comfortable, they would be able to actually, talk to us about everything, and they would enjoy our sessions, and they would play games with us in a conducive environment. So we must engage them at all times. We must try to involve them. Toddlers are not meant to listen to us. They at certain times they would not be interested in a certain activity. At that time, we need to change our activity or we need to change our style of the teaching. We must help the students work on their social emotional skills because sometimes they need that support from us, and constantly encouraging them would actually help them understand and enjoy their classroom experience to the fullest. We need to be fair and consistent. It's very important that we need to be fair with the children. We need to be consistent. We need to have a positive attitude because teachers are basically role models. Children would be copying you. They would always try to have a positive attitude towards you. So your positive aura is very, very important when you enter the classroom. You must circulate around the classroom all the time so that all children who need that support should feel free to talk to you, and never humiliate a student because that is something which will put them down and they will stop trying to learn. Always have a plan of your classroom because it's very important that you pre-plan your sessions and you make a small plan of what you are going to do in those 45 to 50 minutes that you're going to be talking to the students. Uh, I have my handout, which is going to be given to you, which focuses on developing a positive attitude towards mathematics. How you can actually work on building the concentration of students, because that's very, very important in toddlers. It's very difficult to actually attract them and keep them focused or towards any particular activity that we are doing in our sessions. Then how we can work on memory retention in a fun way. Also about developing their motor skills, how you can work on that. Discovering and learning and understanding the basic concepts. And then there is some portion of additional knowledge. Uh, Checking the pace of learning, how children are performing, and how we are able to inculcate the basic fundamental concepts as far as early literacy of mathematics is concerned. Uh, then building their self-confidence, because these are things that would take time and we would need to invest time in them these techniques so that they are more confident about their own selves. They are able to be more confident about the subject, and they are more confident about enjoying the subject with you. So bonding with the teacher, how we can actually uh, create love for students, and how we can actually bond with them at various times other than when we are teaching, how we can make our classroom environment interesting and a place where every child would want to be. Then how we can use clay works effectively, how we can use finger painting and sand play, threading activities, how we can use the building blocks effectively, and activities for sorting and developing the pencil grip. So all these would be there in my handout, which will be given to you right now. Okay, so a child is like a butterfly in the wind. Some can fly higher than others, but each one flies the best it can. Why compare one against the other? Each one is different. Each one is special. Each one is beautiful for you to love and love some more. I'll just show you the e-mate that I discussed with you during the presentation, and then I'll open the house for question and answer session.
Ms. Ayesha, can we start with the questions and question and answers while
Okay.
you walk us through the e-mate?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So we had some really interesting questions and comments throughout the session, and the participants have been very actively involved. So thank you all for participating so actively in today's session. We had some really, really good questions. So I'm going to start off with this one that came in from a participant, and they're asking, every school doesn't have such conducive environment, so how can teachers create one? And there was another one which was related to it, which asked, how can we create a conducive environment and conduct interesting activities during these times when the students are not coming to the classes?
Okay, so I would say that creating a conducive environment is not that difficult. Even if the students are not coming to the class, it's just okay. We can have, online sessions with them. But before the sessions, it would be interesting that we share certain videos with them or certain materials which can be actually shared with them by their parents. And when they are in our session at that time, I would say that it would be interesting if we, develop activities that are of their choice. Since not everybody would, be able to would be able to um, understand the idea. So, making like interesting activities online would be interesting, and then we can actually have interesting storytelling sessions where we can have different maths activities during the story time, and through the usage of puppets, we can actually introduce the idea of counting. So there can be so many interesting ways in which you can involve the children and attract their attention even online these days.
All right, so
And
very interesting. All of the ideas that you shared. So there's another question which is related to, sort of related to what you're talking about. And the
okay.
participant has asked how we can link mathematics to other subjects.
Oh, yes, definitely. We can most certainly link mathematics to all the subjects that are there. We can link it to music, we can link it to science. And like I said, that during a science experiment, they can actually measure different things, they can count different, objects, and then see what their relationship is like. And by mixing two objects, what would they achieve? So through science activities, even through other subjects like history, we could actually talk about what sort of people were at early ice age, and what were the common things and what were the things which were different. So we can talk about the idea of difference and commonality between different ages. So every subject can be actually inculcated in maths, or I would say maths can be there in every subject. And we can definitely enjoy different subjects while using mathematical
Yeah.
games and activities.
All right, so very interesting, very comprehensive. Thank you for that very comprehensive answer. I'm gonna pose one last question. There was a comment about when you were talking about changing the activity when the students don't show interest, and somebody commented how that's a very interesting thing, but how do you actually do it in the classroom, and how do you figure out if the children are not engaged in the activity? And there was another one that's related to this question, which is how do we develop interest in maths, particularly in online classes? So these are the last questions that I'd want you to answer. If you could please
Yeah.
answer these questions.
Uh, I think it's very, very important that we realize that children are very little, and they would really sometimes not be on the same page as we are. So at certain times, we can just switch on our audio mics and tell them to talk to us and ask them about what they would want. And maybe they come up with something that can actually be your second activity, because certain times a teacher can be a super teacher if she's able to ask interesting questions which could actually take the students to a journey of discovery that she wants them to actually experience. Like probably I would be talking to them about maybe some interesting story that they like, and maybe talk about gingerbread man, and activities can revolve around the characters of gingerbread man and how it can be used to teach different mathematical concepts of addition or of measurement or of any such sort. So sometimes we have to actually involve students in a way that they give you the answer that you want them to actually start observing and start experiencing and enjoying. And at other times, we can involve them in musical activities, and that can give them sort of a different change. And after that, we can get back to the activity that we initially started.
All right. Okay, great. Thank you for a very comprehensive answer to all the questions asked, and thank you for such an interesting session. And thank you all for participating in today's session. You can click on the feedback link to provide feedback on today's session. So please take some time to provide feedback on today's session. Your feedback is very valuable to us. I have also posted a link, a download link. You can click on the download link and to download the handout for today's session. I really hope you enjoyed today's session, and I hope you will be joining us for the session scheduled for this week, and particularly for the session tomorrow. So thank you all for joining in.
Thank you so much, Ayesha. This is the e-mate that I was talking about. Just a glimpse of this e-mate for you all. The countdown series is available on the e-mate, and through this library, you can actually visit all those books that are there in our e-mate.
Okay, so all right, so so this is the eMate, and you can access all the books and incorporate digital learning through the eMate. Ms. Aisha also spoke about Oxford OWL, so you can also access those resources and make your learning impactful. So thank you for sharing these wonderful resources, Ms. Aisha, and thank you all for joining in. Please do take a moment to share your feedback and download the handout from the handout link provided in the chat box. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you so much, Ayesha, and thank you everyone for joining my session. I hope you enjoyed